so that those dreams that you have can actually come true, because they've made 35,000 dreams come true.
There you go.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about traditional methods, for a minute. Okay? They're slow.
Traditional
They're
methods
costly. I'll tell you in a minute.
Okay.
They're costly, and they often leave you waiting for days before you can access your money. That kind of method is what I'm talking about. Okay. Payments.
Payment method.
Does it sound familiar?
My friend.
Can take some time.
Yes.
But here's the good news. The folks at Verto have completely changed the game for businesses dealing with cross-border payments. Imagine sending money around the world in minutes.
Yes.
Your business here in Nairobi, and you're sending money to your, subsidiary in Johannesburg,
Yes.
or you're doing the same thing across in Guangzhou, or you're in Toronto, making those payments in minutes. Doesn't matter time of day, not days, and with better exchange rates and no hidden fees. Nobody's going to tell you there's some $20-something under the table. No hidden charges, and with the low fees, it's possible for you to make these payments without getting or feeling the pinch. So that's what Verto offers. It's trusted by businesses worldwide, from SMEs to larger enterprises. It's giving you fast, secure, and cost-effective payments without the banking red tape. So whether you're an SME, whether you're an importer, whether you're an exporter, or a finance professional, Verto makes it easy to manage your international payments. They're fast, secure, and full transparency. 49 currencies, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 49.
Yeah.
190 countries, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 189, 190 countries around the world, and a platform designed to keep your business growing. Log in anytime. It's all in one place. So why stick with the old ways when there's a smarter, more affordable solution? All you need to do is head on over to www.vertofx.com and sign up today to start making better global payments. 1, 2, 3, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Get it done. Then,
bam, thank you, ma'am.
And as you get those payments and you start to rack up those payments and you start to build your business properly, then you decide one day, you know what? I've made enough money.
Yes.
Now I want to buy house.
Now I want to chop money.
Now I can't put all my money in this house. I want to be able to pay slowly. What do I do?
Well, that story, that is with living happily ever after. As you're living happily ever after, your friend comes and asks, look, this happiness I also want. So, you begin the story all over again and tell them, look, the once upon a time is not where I'm going to begin. I'm going to begin with what you can do so that you can live happily ever after. There is a bank called Diamond Trust Bank. You need to go and visit them.
Oh, yeah?
Yes, you do. It's important. This is me who's living happily ever after telling my friend the story. So they know how they can also live happy. Because they're wondering, why am I this happy?
And ever after by yourself.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Saying, look, even this effect I also wanted in my life.
And we always thought it's ugali, but it's different.
No, ugali plays a part in it.
In the happily ever after.
But when you're eating it in that house,
But
if you're living happily, that
Eating
ugali is
your
wonderful.
ugali in
Yes.
your own
The
house.
ugali is better in your own house.
So
True.
I tell my friend, look, let's start with what you can do. Then I'll give you the details of why it's important to do what I'm telling you to do. I'm telling you, look, you like sending emails. Send one, okay? 2, mortgages at Diamond Trust, Africa.com. Start there,
Yes.
okay? Number 1. That's number 1. Number 2, go and visit any Diamond Trust branch, okay? Now, why am I telling you all these things? Because, my friend, Diamond Trust offers mortgages. 9%, 9.5%. Why 9.5? 9% if you borrow or you get a mortgage for 10 years. If you get a mortgage for 25 years, it's 9.75.
Okay.
But beyond that, they're telling you, look, please prepare yourself to smile. There are no hidden charges.
Bas.
Okay? There are no penalties for paying early. This 9% and 9.5%, it's a constant. It won't change. Whether which currency does what other currencies do or whether they do their own thing, nothing changes. And they're saying, you know something? If you are in the diaspora, we will still consider you. We'll give you up to 80%.
Lovely.
Mortgage. Okay. If you're in Kenya, whether you're employed, whether you're in business, and you, my friend, I know you're in business. That's now me telling my friend. Yes, I know you're in business. You are included in this.
Okay.
But you can get up to 105%.
Love to hear
We
it.
guarantee this because we are in partnership with Kenya Mortgage Finance Company. All this information, go back to where we started off. Remember the
email
email
guide. Yeah.
and the visit. You will confirm what I'm telling you. So, my friend, this happily ever after story, it's not just for me, it's for you. pass on the information to that other friend I know you have.
Voila. And that's where we are this morning. Fantastic. Great stuff that you can do. Get the skill and talent, get the business, get the mortgage. Those are the kind of things that we're talking about this morning. All right. And so getting into our conversation for the day, half of the folks who are supposed to be here to having a conversation with us are here this morning. And as we get into it, Kasmuel Mokore is here. Kasmuel, good morning.
Good morning, dude.
How are you doing?
Quite well.
Fantastic.
Yes.
You're draped in orange.
Yes.
Okay.
I am draped. Our party turns 25.
Okay.
No, it turns 20.
Turns
It
20.
turns 20 this year.
Uh-huh.
So the whole year we'll be activating across the nation.
Okay.
As we galvanize towards the grand celebration of ODM at 20 at the coast.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. That's fantastic.
Right.
You're with ODM Youth League.
I am in the ODM Youth League. Yes.
And you're part of a conversation that we're having this morning when we're talking about youth in politics and the place in politics and where we are saying we are going.
Yes.
There's been a cry for the longest time that, we've got to involve, younger folks in this. We have to pass on the baton to someone.
Right.
And so that forms part of the conversation that we'll have this morning. Morara Kebaso will be here.
Right.
He's stuck in some Nairobi traffic somewhere.
Yes.
But he shall join us shortly.
Somewhere in Nairobi.
Somewhere in Nairobi.
Yes, we should
Last
tune in
scene.
for the traffic minute so that we show him which road to use.
Which is the best option to
Yes,
take.
yes.
But the show must go on and we will continue and he will join us in a short while.
Right.
But before we start, CT will share today's proverb with you. Tell us what you think about it and how you would interpret it. Fair enough?
Right.
Okay.
Our proverbs for the whole of this week comes from the Gambia, meaning the Republic of the Gambia.
Of the Gambia.
Yes. If a donkey kicks you and you kick it back, you are both donkeys.
If a donkey kicks you and you kick it back, you are both donkeys.
Yes.
And you forgive me for my bias. I will give it in an allegory that my party leader, Right Honorable Raila Odinga, once gave. That if you're swimming and in a river and you put your clothes ashore and a madman comes and takes your clothes away, if you get out of the river to chase the madman, you are also a madman. So if you use the same approach to face challenges which have significantly shown you that they're out of your ken, or things that are stronger than you, you're nothing but an incompetent person. That's how I would interpret it. That we ought to be analytical in our approaches in life. In whatever it is that we do, we have to see how we can get the best outcome and not just using brute force. Yeah, because I would imagine that if we can domesticate a donkey, I don't see why I would still go into a kicking match with a donkey.
Indeed.
Yes.
Well, there you go. Great interpretation, I would say. So, look,
Yes.
even as we get into these conversations today, let's start from the premise where we were, where about 10 or so years ago, the real clamor to have a new face of leadership and political practitioners was starting to get really strong.
Yes.
Over the last, 3 or 4 years, we saw that get even stronger, where they said we can't have the same old faces,
Right.
Leading Kenya anymore. We can't have the same old faces standing atop vehicles and, pulling together community barazas, asking people to then give them attention.
Yeah.
That it had to be a younger face. It had to be a more inclusive face.
Right.
And that is a front and center conversation to date.
It is.
Where are we with that in terms of inclusion of younger folks on this scene?
That's a very interesting question. But permit me first to tender my most revolutionary greetings from our heroes present and heroes past. To anyone who's watching might be tuning in and wondering what my attire is. I am donning the attire of the largest progressive, pro-people, pro-Kenya party. A party that has been trusted by all of our country's liberators, from the first to some of the people from the Gen Z uprising. The party that backed our constitution of 2010. A party whose heart is the Republic of Kenya, whose mind is the constitution of 2010 that we fought for, whose lymphatic system is our party constitution, and whose nervous system are the needs of Kenya, and whose full bodily manifestation is exemplified in the personhood of the most honorable party leader, His Eminence, His Most Excellent Excellency, the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. Our only benefits from the Youth League, I must say, are not monetary or positional.
It was important that you said
It is
that.
none of those.
Okay.
It is in being able to live in the manifestation of the FLF principle that was set up by the late Senator Otieno Kajwang,
FLF?
which is faithfulness, loyalty, and fidelity to the party, in experiencing that camaraderie. And I can say that in the national conversation, the young people have been totally excluded. If you see it, right now, everybody has simplified the conversation back to President Ruto and the beleaguered former deputy president Rigathi Gachagua. Those are the people who are now dominating the headlines, despite the fact that we are the ones who starred the waters for far too long. We have the people we are the angel that stars the water.
We
the youth,
okay,
we the young people
all
of
right.
Kenya.
Yes.
As of last year, because we are living in a new political dispensation, because the country's course of history changed on the 20th.
Mentioned Raila Odinga in every other statement. Must you quote him all the time? Is he to be praised all the time? Because there seems to be something about Kenyans when they enter a political party. It's like they sing from the same script. Is it possible for an ODM to speak without mentioning Baba?
Is there anything this fine gentleman has said which is not true of Raila?
Yes.
No. Please hear me. The person invited to the show is Kasmuel.
Yes.
Okay? Raila, we know. You know, even the demons told the sons of Sceva.
Yes.
Jesus, we know.
Yes.
Paul, we know.
Yes.
But who are you?
My name is Kasmuel Makowure from the ODM Youth League.
Listen.
And however, I would like to
Listen,
answer your
Kasmuel.
question.
Okay.
I'd like to answer your question. It's very simple.
Yeah, answer the question.
Why don't you have a problem when people mention Karl Marx in the ideology? Because Marx is quoted all the time. Why don't you have a problem when people quote Lenin? They're communists. If anything, that is the same thing as quoting the party
my dear
leader.
friend, how did you know I don't have a problem?
The thing which I have
No,
done.
hold on. How did you know I don't have a problem?
I'm answering your question to the
No,
best
but
of
you
my
are
ability.
assuming.
Yes.
So don't assume. Answer with
No, but
properly.
even in physics, we are being told assume that G is equals to 9.8 newtons per meter.
Because
so we are
that's
working
math.
with the assumption that we
I
understand
like it when
ideology.
people quote Lenin.
No, that you do not mind it, not that
Okay.
you like it.
So that's your assumption.
Yes.
Okay.
So
Your
what
assumption
was
is
your-
wrong.
So
Continue.
what was your question, Mark?
My question is,
Yes.
it's very simple.
Yes.
The person invited here
Yes.
is Kasmuel.
Yes.
All right? The discussion we want to have
Yes.
is with Kasmuel.
Yes.
Right? Raila Odinga, everyone listening
Yes.
to the power of my voice today
Yes.
knows him.
Yes.
Okay? My issue
Right.
is that we are not here to discuss Raila Odinga.
Yes.
Right? There are matters pertinent to the topic of discussion that affect not only the youth but members of the public. You understand?
However, you do realize that you've dwelt more on my party leader than I have. And I feel jealous because this time I would have said more beneficial things about my party leader than you have.
All right. So as we give you an opportunity to think about the answer to
Yes,
the question,
yes.
let's welcome Morara Kebaso, who is here this morning. Good morning, Morara. How are you?
Very well.
We understand that you were lost somewhere in Nairobi traffic.
Yes.
Our commiserations.
Yeah,
But we
it's
are
okay.
happy that you're here.
Thank you.
We would have given you an opportunity to tell us what you think about the proverb that CT shared today. And I think we'll do that for like 3 seconds.
Okay.
CT,
Yes, we
will
will.
repeat that for
Our
Morara?
proverbs are from the Republic of the Gambia. Not the Kenya or the Tanzania, but the Gambia. If a donkey kicks you and you kick it back, you are both donkeys.
Yeah. This is what I would relate it to. If you joke with fire, you'll expect it to burn you. If you stone a monkey, the monkey will stone you back. And I'll relate it to what happened in Isiolo between the president and the youth. The president is complaining about the youth heckling at him, but I believe he was also quite disrespectful to the people that elected him and gave him the opportunity to be our president. So whatever he got ni msiba wa kujitakia ambao hauna kilio.
Oh, wow. Okay. So this proverb is alive and active,
Yes.
essentially, today.
It has actually gone to Isiolo.
From the Gambia.
From the Gambia to
From the
Isiolo.
Gambia to Isiolo.
We asked Kasmuel earlier, and I'd like to hear your thoughts about this as well.
Yes.
That we've been looking at the clamour, and we've been feeling the clamour over the last decade plus for there to be inclusion of youth in the political sphere. That not just inclusion for, clapping and, giving accolades, but inclusion whereby leadership opportunities are taken up by young people.
Yes.
Where are we there now?
Well, we've made considerable progress, but there are a few problems that we need to identify. Number one is how expensive our politics is. Politics in Kenya is very expensive, and until we deal with campaign financing, or rather the citizenry change their attitude towards, asking for money from politicians, the young people do not have a chance in elective politics, because then they do not have the kind of money that politicians have or have sourced from corruption, which they use to campaign. Most of the young people actually do not have jobs and not even have thriving businesses. People like Morara are like 1% of young people. I'm not a true representation of what young people are actually going through. Most of the young people are economically impoverished, and therefore even thinking about leadership is not something that comes to their mind. Secondly, there is that fear, because young people are very expressive, and you've seen it even on the internet, on X. And people do fear young energy. Even in the jungle, when a young lion comes up, the old ones are usually very scared. So young people, wherever they've done politics around the world, they've been very expressive and very energetic in their politics in a way that kind of scares the establishment. Now, the young people are also sometimes scared of being abducted, killed, or disappeared, or death threats. Very few people can withstand some of the things that young leaders like myself who've decided to come up have been able to withstand. So there's also that challenge of being threatened and being targeted when you are a young leader. And lastly, I would say that the few young leaders that have broken the ice and that have been able to make it to Parliament and Senate, they've not been a true representation of what we'd want as young leadership.
Why is that?
They've not conducted themselves in a manner as to how we would want a young leader to conduct themselves to give confidence to young leadership. There are few, very few, extremely few young leaders that have behaved in a manner that is respectable, but a majority of them have behaved in a manner that is very condescending. Some of the people that actually do the very wrong things that we are talking about, and corruption and theft of public funds. The people are abusive at funerals, who hire goons, who practice political violence. Some of them are very young people, some even below the age of 35, below the age of 30. So then they do not inspire confidence in the citizenry to trust young leadership. So there's that problem that those who have gone ahead of us are not really representing what young people actually represent and stand for.
Oh, just to jump in, first of all, I'd like to apologize. I saw he's a rather brave man, because just talking about the threats that the young people are facing, I think I saw some people dropped coffins,
empty
coffins,
items,
yes, in front of his house. I think that's part of the intimidation that the young people are facing, and I'd just like to tender my heartfelt apologies to the party leader of the Inject Party of Kenya. Yes.
Why? Okay, go ahead, Mark.
As young people, and it is true, the Gen Z has carried this nation into a total new dispensation. And of course, we see what you guys are doing out there in terms of activism, talking about what issues are going on. But do you think there's going to be more movement? Right? And I'm not talking by movement, I don't mean demonstrations, all of those things. By movement, I mean you've created one step, you move one step ahead. Do you think that the energy you have, the support that you have, will be able to deliver the next step in terms of the transformation that you want? So, for example, when you were talking about failed projects, etc., do you see the next step of seeing these projects completed? For example,
if I was to look at it this way, first, it's not possible for some of these projects to be completed because money was budgeted for, it was paid. For for example, last week I did the hospital in Mahimahio, level 4 hospital. The contractors paid the whole 153 million. So this is money that was budgeted and has already been paid. So the chance that, again, the county assembly would allow some more money to be budgeted would be maybe a conduit for corruption, but most of these projects actually will remain stalled for a long time until probably we get a government that is interested in completing them. Secondly, we have a problem with how our budget is structured. We have a 3.9 billion budget, but 70% of it is going to trillion budget. And most of it is going to recurrent expenditure. You know, per diems, people traveling outside the country with their girlfriends, people traveling with their relatives, and 30% is what is left for development, and that development is not really development. It is paying pending bills and paying debt. So then we are left with nothing. But if I was to look at it this way, I believe as young people, there is some very serious political and civic education that is required before we can actually see the fruits of our labor. Because the Gen Zs have labored, but can that labor bear fruit? And for it to bear fruit, there is some political education that is required. We need to realize, okay, that our problem is not just the leaders. It is the system that brings these kind of leaders to power. So we may be making the mistake of focusing so much on individuals and forgetting that these individuals are a product of a failed system. So when you look at William Ruto as a president and you're disappointed about his economic policies, you're disappointed about abductions, you're disappointed about killings, you need to go back and ask yourself, how did he actually get here? How did he become a president with an ICC case for mass murder? How did he become a president with corruption allegations? Which kind of system have we created where Anne Waiguru can leave NYS with allegations of corruption of up to 20 billion shillings and be elected a governor not once, but twice?
See, she was taking lighter duties.
But also,
So what makes us trust this kind of people? Or how exactly do we end up with this kind of people in power? We have the MP for Nyaribari Masaba, Daniel Manduku, who had a corruption case in Kenya Ports Authority and was, gifted this position of member of parliament by his people. The same happened to Gladys Boshole in Uasin Gishu. She had a corruption case at the judiciary and she was elected a women rep. So then we need to ask ourselves, by removing President William Ruto, will we have solved the problem? Because right now, look at the political formations that are forming. You realize that it is the same old monkeys looking for opportunities to recycle themselves back into the forest. So you remove Muizi A, you replace with Muizi B.
Yes.
You remove incompetent A, you replace with competent B. You remove abductor A, you replace with abductor B. It's the same case of removing Kidero and putting Sonko, of removing Kaboga and putting Waititu. So what are we doing about expanding our choices? And good people and people of integrity need to step up and take positions of leadership. They need to stop fearing politics.
And who are these, Kasmuel, when we look at that? Because I think that becomes an overarching question. But how do you know that the person that you're going to select or the person that you're going to put up is one who's going to stay away from these vices that Morara speaks about?
I think, first of all, just we are those people. But two, if we had good systems, this is very heavily pegged on systemic change. And I've been in this studio severally and I've talked about systemic change, and it is rather unfortunate that the thing I am most remembered for is for jumping through a door into Nation Media Center. We have consistently clamored, and even when we were shouting, for example, when we were chanting Ruto must go, for example, you remember that we said that it is not the person Ruto, it is what we thought Rutocracy was. It is the system in which he is. And I find him to be a rather unfortunate president because he's come into an age when we are coming into the age of enlightenment. In an age and a generation where we do not let things go. I also think it is rather unfair for you to call young people who are just making their debut into their leadership journey to ask them such questions, because the work that Morara is doing is not his job. He should not be touring the country. We have the Auditor General.
But he's a citizen.
No, wait. We cannot. This is the thing. This is the problem with Kenya. This thing which you're saying, but he's a citizen. He is supposed to be. He's a young man.
And how is that a problem?
I'm about to explain. Give me time. Let me land. This thing for you saying he is a citizen, you have better capacity than he has. You are a media station. You have the privilege of having staff, cameras, a research department that is well funded that could go and visit those projects. You could also host the office of the Auditor General. You could also host people from EACC and ask them to actually do their job. Now, it has gotten to the point where it is so bad that a young man cannot focus on his growing business. Because what we are doing right now, by Morara being the party leader for Inject, we are effectively making one less businessman. Because have you been spending as much time in your business as you should be?
Of course not.
The business. I'm going. Let me land.
I have to ask a question here in order to buffer this. Morara, when you decided to go on this, the country travels and see,
The Vampire Diaries.
Let's call them that. Did you do that at the request of anybody, or was it a stirring in your spirit that said, this cannot continue? Did somebody give you the job?
So now we are talking accountability. And I believe accountability should be every citizen's responsibility.
There you go.
Yes.
In counties that I've seen that work almost happened, most of the counties have failed, but in counties where I've seen work almost happen, which is Murang'a, the citizens are very aggressive in terms of following up projects that are promised to them. So this thing also boils down to the citizenry. I, as Morara, have seen the failures, and I've decided that I'm not going to keep quiet about it. I'm going to do something about it. Now, that's something that I've decided to do. Somebody else needs to pick something else, and another person needs to pick something else. In fact, instead of traveling the whole country, somebody else should be doing it in Coast as well as I do it in Nairobi. Somebody else should be doing it in Nyanza. But now, there is this kind of problem where citizens are laid back. We have laid back citizens who are very permissive to mediocrity. Citizens who allow misgovernance and poor leadership to thrive in our country. And it's almost like the citizens do not care about their money. That is why one of the messages that I've been very loud about, every time I go for the Vampire Diaries, I'm always saying, this is your money. 95% of the Kenyans do not believe they pay taxes simply because they are not employed, and therefore it's not deducted from their pay slip, and because they don't pay the money directly as a businessman would pay VAT or income tax to KRA. So they don't believe hii pesa ni yao. So they say, ile pesa ya serikali Nairobi, hiyo pesa imeibiwa sana. They forget that this is their money, that when you buy a cigarette, when you buy alcohol, when you buy anything, even a motorbike person, mwenye anaweka mafuta ya 100 shillings at a petrol station has paid taxes. And therefore they need to know that cumulatively this is your money. This is mine, yours, and some.
I have a question. Is there someone who's supposed to be doing this job? For example, no, I'm not saying you're doing a bad job.
Duty. This is about duty.
Yes, to the country.
One thing we forgot to put in our constitution.
Yes.
And I believe we misstepped that one.
Right.
Is we put human rights and the rights of citizens,
yes,
but we forgot to put citizens' responsibilities. Now, a citizen has a duty to be responsible.
Yes.
I, Morara, am being responsible.
Yes.
Now, it's like a responsible father.
Yes.
I may be responsible in this home, but my neighbor is not.
Yes.
And that's why I'm trying to encourage my neighbor to be responsible with me, so that when our children go to play together, my child is not playing with a spoiled child from the other home who is poorly raised.
So everybody essentially sets on the same line.
Everybody needs to do something. Journalists are doing something, and I really appreciate what journalists are doing. I am doing something as a citizen. Okay, judges sitting in court, listening to these cases when we bring them to them, are doing something about this. Now, everybody needs to start doing something. Even matatus need to start putting some programs and radios that actually educate the citizens. Musicians need to sing about this. Instead of singing about love, alcohol, heartbreaks, and drugs, navuta kishash, navuta kibangi.
Yeah.
This is a good opportunity for them to actually infuse some political education, and we saw it during the Gen Z movement. I don't know why it died down.
Okay.
They need to infuse this into their music, into their art.
They did die down.
No, it did not.
No, let me just sorry, Kasmuel. Our editorial guidelines do not allow you to wear branded merchandise.
Okay.
Because then ODM would have to pay us for your hat. So we ask you to kindly remove it.
Because I have not combed my hair. I find myself in a dilemma. Therefore, I think I shall, if you give me some time, I will have to go and look for a comb somewhere.
I'm sure there's
or
a
excuse
makeup
myself.
room.
Yes.
There's a makeup room.
Yes.
We'll give you a chance to do so.
That would be nice.
Yes, because we have to be fair to all other political parties.
Yes.
Because now we would have to have all of them so that it's free for everyone.
It's how.
Asante
Thank you. I
sana,
will see you
Kasmuel.
guys soon.
In a few.
In a few.
Don't take too long.
Don't
No.
take too long.
It's
As
not
long
too much
if we
hair
find
to
a,
come.
if we find an Afrocom, I shall be back very soon.
Lydia will help
Lydia
you
will help you.
in a bit.
Lydia, if you see nice dimples, that's Lydia. She'll help
I
you.
usually try to, avoid to discuss people. But in this particular instance, we are discussing about what young people and young leaders in the movement represent and what they are actually inspiring other young people to do. And I would ask myself, have the mainstream political parties in Kenya been the change that we want to see? So then, what are we telling young people? Is it we are telling them that, the only way we are going to achieve this change is if we join the parties that have already created the failed system? Or are we supposed to create something new that has different values and styles of doing things? So I believe that's basically the difference between what I do and what Kasmuel does. Kasmuel is going back to the system that was there, okay? Which I would say is a misled thought, is that he will go into ODM and change it, which is not something that can happen in this generation or the next. So there's that need for us to shift from the old and bring the new. The same way the Bible says that the night is gone and morning has come.
So are we saying that essentially how politics will change, or how the leadership that we so earnestly search for today will change, is if you get rid of the old completely? You can't deal with the folks who were there before. You have to bring in new faces from top to bottom.
Yeah, because look at an example of Matiang'i. So when Matiang'i made a declaration that he would be running for president, some quarters were excited. But I was not. I was not excited because who is backing him up? Who is bringing him to us? Who owns him? The reason I've been agitating for people to fundraise from citizens is so that they are owned by no one. They are owned by the people. But here is a case where President Uhuru Kenyatta is fronting as a candidate. So essentially, we are bringing President Uhuru Kenyatta back to power. So then we have a progressive person here in the place and name and style of Fred Matiang'i, but being backed up by the old guard. And if he were to come to power, then he will not serve us, but he will serve the old guard. So we have to change the system, the manner in which people actually come to leadership. And it's good to keep repeating this. When good people stay out of politics, bad people will lead them. And good people should not complain when bad people are leading them. If you believe you are a good doctor or a good lecturer or a good head high school teacher, and if you were to go into leadership, you would be a person of integrity and you would lead our country to better heights and change and create opportunities. But you do not want to join politics. Then that criminal who is a wash, who runs a brothel, that person who is an international drug dealer, will go into politics because for them is do or die. They need this because it will help them escape justice, having some political power. So they'll do this as a do or die, and they will win, and they will decide your policies. They will decide your education system. They will decide your healthcare system. Oh God, they'll even decide what your pay slip looks like. So the moment good people stay out of politics, they should not say anything.
Morara, I couldn't agree more. I once penned a piece and said exactly the same thing, that Kenya is a country where goons, to be a politician essentially is to be a goon. But now to your comparison between yourself and Kasmuel, I don't know whether you are aware of the conversation that allegedly Malcolm X once had with Martin Luther King Jr., where Malcolm X said, listen, I will remain radical so that they can negotiate with you. Because Martin Luther was the middle. So do you think that there needs to be both sides? The people inside the party and the people outside who are pushing for the new? Is there a balance.
Yes. We need to have progressive voices within the party. For example, in ODM, I can definitely note that Edwin Sifuna, Senator for Nairobi, is a progressive voice in the party. Babu Owino is a progressive voice in the party. James Orengo, I was surprised. He is actually a very progressive voice in the party. These are the people trying to say, well, you see, let's not erase our DNA. Let's ask ourselves, how did we become ODM? And how do we maintain that DNA by not becoming the same people who are going to perpetuate violation of human rights, something that we've been fighting for years. So yes, there needs to be progressive voices within the party, but we who are coming up, you see, we are without blemish. We are untampered with. We are virgins. It's not good for us to join in, because then we become part of the problem. It will rub off on you. Yes.
You seem to suggest that UDA doesn't have progressive voices.
It does.
Like whom?
That's
All right.
that's something that will take me a long time.
It does.
There's a problem in UDA.
There's
Let
a
me
point.
just tell you what the problem is
Okay.
over there.
Yes.
Simping. And simps will see dust.
Okay.
There is a
That's a very Gen
simping
Z
problem.
statement.
You might want to say what simping is for
for
CT's
CT.
benefit.
Okay.
Yes, I was going to ask you.
You're
this
speaking
simping.
in tongues.
Is it a process of drinking something? Is it a process of what is it?
No, simping is simply psychophancy.
Oh, simping.
Okay. So now, in UDA, everybody wants to please the president. Now, I don't know who told them the president is interested in being pleased. I have attended one political meeting in Kisi, which was supposed to be a development tour, where everybody who came to the stage, nobody talked about the people. Everybody talked about how the president is, how nice he is, his voice, his height, his dressing, what he did last week, what he did last month, how he's running the country very well. So everybody comes in to come and praise the president in a way that even makes the president doubt the praise. So everybody is saying, mtukufu rais, baba wa taifa, mimi nataka nikueleze kwamba watu wa hii area wanakupenda. Na hawa watu wamenituma kwako. Nikuambie kwamba ile kazi unafanya usiogope. Sisi tunakuombea.
But how do you know hajatumwa na watu? And then a broken clock is right twice a day.
So speaking truth to power is something that is lacking in UDA, because everybody wants to please the president for two reasons actually. One, they fear being denied the goodies of power. You know, the flag, the security, the access to tenders, the access to powerful offices for brokerage of deals. They don't want the door to be closed on them. Kwamba unapiga president huwezi kuingia hapa. So then they decide to simp without end. Okay? Then number two, they are looking at 2027. And they are seeing, probably because of the tribalism or because of the region where the president comes from, they are hoping for a ticket to be MP again, to be governor again, to be senator again. So it's a selfish interest where they think about nobody but themselves, and therefore they never talk about the people. They never talk about the roads. They don't talk about the hospitals. They don't talk about the stalled projects in the area. They are just there to praise the president.
Okay. So, Kasmuel is back. Still with Hattie.
Yes,
so
I was told to come back with a thing. They couldn't find a comb.
Okay,
That's
so-
beyond my reach.
All right.
That's fine. Let's continue with
Welcome
this.
back.
Because
Asante.
while you were away,
Yes.
Morara told us that, one thing that he sees is that you would want to go into the ODM party as member of the Youth League to change the way things are being done, as opposed to removing the people and have new faces, which Morara believes that is a recipe for the kind of politics that we are looking for in this country. Yes?
Right. And for me, the thing which I've consistently said is I'm not joining the ODM Youth League seeking positions. For me, I don't care about it. And a lot of people have been talking and saying, oh, this is how the party works. For me, I just want to be in a place where we can revitalize. Because remember, a lot of the revolutionary voices that we have in our continent started from rather problematic youth leagues. Malema comes from the ANC Youth League with his comrade at arms, Cyril, and even some of the people who've gone in Umkhonto. I am looking at this as a place that gives us a living, fighting chance. Previously when I was a free agent, some of the frontliners knew that they had parties. They knew that a particular lawyer would come and rescue them if they got into any sort of worry of legal
Any spot
troubles.
of bother.
But now, in this particular youth league, I can come and say, hey, listen, I have, and I didn't just join any other youth league, because at the time there were several political parties. In fact, I sat here as the spokesperson for the NCCPA, which was the National Coordinating Committee of the People's Assemblies, and there were political parties in there. So when I looked ideologically, just a moment, when I looked at the ideology of the available parties, I said, this is the one that aligns with mine the most. However, there still is a lot of work that needs to be done. And now I'm joining as a member. So I hear people ask me, can you go against Raila Odinga? And I'm like, it is none of my business to go against him. My business is to ensure that in this youth league, the vigor that we had when we were on the streets, the ideological grounding that we had, the sharpening of our contradictions, the pursuit for a better country, the pursuit for accountability, good governance, and the war on graft, we can keep that fire burning, but in a structured unit of camaraderie.
I have a question.
Yes.
Permit me to ask.
Go for it.
So, apparently, when you went into ODM,
yes,
I was expecting that you'd be the national youth leader.
Yes.
But then I realized that the national youth leader is still John Ketora, who I'm told is 40 or 50, I'm not sure.
Yes.
And then I also expected you to be on the short list for permanent secretary. At least, when I heard that you've left, I thought there was some consideration to it,
right,
that there's something good coming your way, and therefore you saw it as a chance that you don't want to miss.
Right.
When I look at your politics, and I'm not criticizing or trying to be, all-knowing,
yes,
I believe you had a bigger voice, inside the Gen Z movement, and a bigger opportunity there than what you have at ODM.
Right.
Because then ODM, you joined a structure that is already established, and you are joining at the bottom of the pile. So there are people here who've been waiting and longing to be at the top. So you're not just going to cruise way through them,
yes,
but you already had a very high platform. So what is it that happened to you? Is it that you gave up on the people before they gave up on you?
I think I see the tenor of the question, but parts of it are framed rather badly. But for example, the expectation of joining and becoming youth leader, for example, I would address first the issue of John Ketora. He's sitting, and it's one of the problematic issues with the party, but the party is we've undergone elections. We did elections last year in October. So we are still doing elections. So these people are being a lot of the systems that we're saying. We are challenging a lot of status quo. And there are very many young voices that you will see coming up in Chungwa. That is one. But two, in terms of saying that I had sort of a bigger voice, I would, if I were to draw a simple comparison between you and I, we had different circumstances and situations. Your approach, I think, is rather ingenious. I've disagreed with you before. I've said here approach could have been better. And these are things which, a lot of the time when what people usually expect is we will dramatize. So we are brought into a thing to insult each other. But we've done that in previous interviews. And now we've gotten to the point where you tell me this, I tell you this, even off air. But I think it was rather ingenious that you formed a political party, because then you get to grow through it. There are things that could be done better. There are things that you could grow and learn. But I joined an existing structure. Remember, at the time when I was at the peak of the movement, we had agreed that we would just keep it a movement and not a political. We would not form a political party. So I did not have the good graces of the people to go ahead and form a political party.
So what made you join a party? And I'm going to ask that question connected with another one.
Okay.
Because at the height of the movement, I mean, you were one of the faces,
right?
And we're talking about, pre-June 25th and then thereafter.
Right.
But then there were certain things that came up, and I think you have an opportunity to clear up some things for people.
Yes.
Because they might be, a bit misguided in terms of maybe what your decisions were.
Yes.
And the speculation is rife.
Right.
You're the only one who can tell us whether it was that case or not.
Yes.
That you would have been compromised in one way or another to leave the movement and its tenets behind for some kind of monetary gain. Is that true?
Okay.
Or not?
Because
and then join that to why you decided to join a party and essentially leave the movement.
Yes, because now I could join that also to Morara's question, and this is a part which I thought was framed rather badly, because it just speaks to the Kenyan expectation that if you do a particular thing, if you're aligned with certain people, these are what it means. Because if someone expects me for the shortlist, on the shortlist of PSs, it implies that I applied. Common sense dictates that you've applied, but I did not apply to be a PS. I would have had the chance. If anything, I hang out with my party leader quite a lot. And he's rather fond of young people. I don't know where that stereotype has come from, but I'm meeting a Raila Odinga in an age where he's super interested in young people and he's super interested in listening.
He has always been interested in younger people.
Yes.
And he didn't start with you.
Therefore, that's what
Yes.
I'm saying. At this point, if I made a request to Mzee and told Mzee, listen, as compensation, please go and talk to number one about this. Do you think that would be something that was
let
true?
me ask this
Let me
question.
finish. No.
I need
Kindly
to
let me
answer
finish
the
Ndu's
question.
question so that let us be in order. I decided then to join a political party because I did an analysis.
Okay.
And remember, as I was saying, I've sat here before as the spokesperson of NCSPA. There were various parties. And remember, these were parties of the left. These are leftist parties, which are supposed to be the progressive parties. In looking at what they stood for and their approach and their organization, because we have to organize before we mobilize, I saw that the Orange Democratic Movement is the party that would have best allowed me.
I have to interrupt you.
Yes.
I have to interrupt you. You know, this discussion, we did not want it to be about political parties.
Yes.
For a simple reason.
Yes.
Our constitution states
Yes.
everybody here
Yes.
is a sovereign. Everyone here.
Yes.
The sovereign is supposed to be the determinant.
Yes.
Not the determining factor, the determinant when it comes to change.
Yes.
Do we have a sovereign represented by the Gen Z who are determined and committed to change?
Yes.
Because if they are not the party.
No. I understand your question. The
group
answer
of
is
Gen Z.
yes. The answer is yes.
If they are,
Yes.
what are the signs that they are?
City, the answer is yes. What is Morara doing? He has a party called Inject. Is that not part of the change?
This one
Two.
person.
Yeah, I'll give you a whole list. What am I doing?
I don't want a list. I don't want a list.
Yes.
He stated something
Yes.
that got to the heart of the matter.
Yes.
Have the Gen Z understood their role and the commitment they need to play their part?
They
It's a
have.
simple enough question.
They have.
No, they haven't.
Because you cannot
because
answer a question with a
they-
predetermined answer.
just hold
City,
on.
I have to explain.
But they haven't.
Mark, you have to give
Okay.
me a moment because I am the guest. City has asked a question.
Wait, by the way,
No, just give me a moment. Just a moment.
This is a guest who has come with predetermined privileges.
But no. Yes, no, but I have. Let me.
take your privilege. Take
Let
your
me speak.
privilege.
Permit me to answer.
No, you are the guest. Please answer.
Go ahead,
Mr. City
Guest.
has asked a question.
Go ahead.
Yes.
And asked that, have the Gen Z understood? I have said yes. City has said no.
No, they haven't.
That's what I'm saying. You
All
cannot
right.
ask a question and answer it. I will give you my perspective.
Of course
then
I
you
can.
can tell me because then we lose the essence.
All right,
I will
Kasmuel,
explain
share
what.
your perspective
Yes,
on
then
the reasons as to why you believe that the Gen Z have prepared.
we might not be united in approach. We might not even be united in ideology, but we are united in the issues. All of us agree that corruption is a problem that bedevils this country. All of us agree that there needs to be accountability in government. All of us agree that we need good governance. That Gen Z that we are talking about, we've gone into the digital space and taken over that space like no other generation has. So it does not. We've understood our assignment because we are also the first generation that's looking to recall members of parliament this aggressively.
You're the first generation who have a constitution that allows you to do that.
That's what I'm saying.
No,
yes.
Then we've understood our
Kasmuel.
roles in the 2020 constitution.
Kasmuel and Morara, let me give you a basic question. We've got about 3 minutes. There's in strategy, there's something we call the 5 and thens. Okay? So, Ruto must go, and then you answer. After you get the first answer, you ask, and then? So, the chant I hear all the time, right, is Ruto must go, and then? That's my question.
It's a very simple question.
No,
Go
it's
first.
not,
Okay,
it's
go
not
first.
simple.
Yeah.
Because I want to understand the legal, economic, and constitutional journey that is needed to make that happen.
All right. As I told you earlier, and I'll say it again, there's a difference between populists and leaders. I don't believe myself to be a populist. I believe myself to be a leader. Therefore, I identify a goal, then I mobilize people towards that goal. And that is why sometimes people think I I do things against the wave, because other people want to listen to the ground, hear what is popular, then work with what is popular so that they sail with the wave. Personally, usually want to see what is right.
Yes.
Then we now find a way to influence people to actually advocate and push for the right thing. And for this one, I'll agree with you. As young people, and rightfully so, we've not yet understood the problem. We've not diagnosed the problem properly. And a problem that has been defined properly is half solved. You half solve a problem by defining it properly. We have defined the problem as William Ruto. We have identified the pain, but we are not identifying the source of the pain. So until we identify the source of the pain, this pain is not going away. Because then we would remove President William Ruto and replace him with someone else in the same system.
Yes.
So that person will be Ruto Pro Max. There will be absolutely no difference. He'll be coming in to do things the same way. So we should fix the system. And this is something I have been trying to educate young people. That's why sometimes I'm called a civic educator, to try and bring people to the light to see that apart from the pain we are feeling, it's normal as human beings to always focus on the pain. We need to realize that we have to remove this pain together with its source.
But is William Ruto really the problem?
As young people, the first thing we need to do, register as voters. We need to be willing to vote. Number two, as young people, we need to be willing to take positions of leadership. Otherwise, we become complainers, but we do not become problem solvers.
How would you
because
say it?
you see the problem with this leader, but how willing are you to step in and vote this leader out or be voted in to replace this leader?
To be
So
part
we
of
have
the
8
solution.
million people that did not vote. 22 million voters, 14 million people voted, 8 million people did not vote, and 70% of them were young people. We have by 2027, we'll have about 7 million more young people that were eligible to vote and never registered to vote, and that will be eligible to vote. So these people need to get on board and become voters and decision makers and be willing to exercise that decision for it to change their lives at the ballot.
Very quickly with you, Kasmuel, because our time is up.
All right. I think when I said this is a very simple question, it indeed is a simple question that we want to pose it as a fake deep question. Let Kenyans start voting for policies and not personalities. We've seen this time without number, where the Kenyan has consistently gone to the ballot box and voted 6Ps. They voted against an individual. And this is the same thing, the same mistake we're going to repeat in 2027, where people, and that's why I was saying even the framing of the question is perennially wrong. It cannot be Ruto. It cannot, because we will go to the ballot to vote against Ruto. So it will be any other. And we've seen people saying, if a chicken runs against Ruto, the chicken will win. If an unvaccinated cow runs against Ruto, the cow will win. If we still think about personalities, we will fail. But if we think about policies, that's one. But two, let us also stop weaponizing churches. For far too long, the NCIC has been silent on certain issues, and now the pulpit has become nothing but desecrated. But three, we also cannot have this legislative capture that we usually see. Parliament cannot just be serving at the behest of the executive. We also have to have judicial reforms. These are things which do not even need us to give much of a shock. We just need to follow the constitution, which I have consistently been saying that my party fought for. If we focus on constitutionalism, the party that is ODM, if you focus on constitutionalism, we will solve all these problems. And Mzee, by the way, is going to become the AUC chair. We shall go to Addis Ababa.
Let's do close the show.
I
Let's
wish
do
we had
close
more
the show.
time, but it's good to have both of you here in the studio this morning. Morara Kebaso
I'm
and
honoring my
Kasmuel
party leader.
Makori, Asante Sana. Good morning. And
Asante
1 minute
for having
after
us.
9.
Thank you.